welcome to Be the Change podcast. I'm Ashley.
I'm Melissa.
And today, I believe this is episode 13.
Yeah,
I was trying to double check and make sure. So
I feel like it is,
we are actually, when we're recording this, we're coming off of Easter.
Yes.
So we've done a lot of reflection of Easter time and I guess different topics, different things. I am tired today. Easter weekend is one of the busiest, well, especially this year, was the busiest weekend of the year for me.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
So we're just going to kind of dive in. We have a bit of a different topic today.
Yeah.
Talking about, I guess I'm going to let you talk more about
God's promises.
Yeah.
So I just want to kind of tell a little story to start. And there was a time, it's always a time, but there was a specific time when things were just not going right, if you will. It's like everything was falling apart. Jobs and people and, you know, things that we were doing and just everything was starting to go crazy. And it was like all of a sudden, you know, here I thought things were going to be one way, you know, don't we do that? And God had a different plan. And, you know, for me, I'm okay with it. Like, I don't like it. I don't like that things are changing. I don't like that we've got to wait or, you know, it's not happening just yet or it's going a different way. I don't like any of that. I like to know every day what's going to happen and the schedule and the routine. I'm very routine and all the things. So when you throw a wrench, I go crazy. Like it, you know, and that doesn't happen anymore so much. And so there was an instance when, you know, things were going crazy and I was like, you know, it's fine. Everything will be fine. You know, God's doing it for a reason and it will always be for my good. I'm not going to sit here and panic. I'm still going to smile and think about all the promises that he gave me. And I was telling that to somebody and they were like, you know, that's pretty good to be optimistic like that. And while in the moment I didn't say anything about being optimistic, it didn't set well with me. Like that really made me angry. I'm not optimistic. Are you crazy? Like it's all falling apart. Optimistic, I'm going to lose my mind if I don't look at the promises that he gave me. And so anyway, at that time, and this has been a few months anyway, I kind of went into explaining the difference for me being optimistic or standing on the promises that he gave me in his word. So anyway, I wanted to just share what I wrote. As I look outside, I see very heavy gray clouds. It's dark and gloomy. It's cold and rainy. And when I look around at the circumstances I see, I feel on the inside how it looks on the outside today. Optimism actually comes from outside circumstances, tangible things that you can see when you look around. And I have no idea how things are going to work out. I have no idea how bad it's going to hurt in the meantime. I have no idea what it is going to look like when this part is over. The way it appears, though, there is no way out. What I do have is faith in God. I stand on his promises, and he doesn't lie. He can't lie. He says that he won't harm me, that he wants to give me hope and a bright future. He says he wants me to prosper. He also says that he will use all things for my benefit and his glory. He doesn't promise me an easy ride. He promises me that it'll be worth it, though. So far, all have been proven by him through me. No, excuse me. Proven by me through him. Pardon me. And that's how I deal with life. Because on the day that I wrote that, it was wintertime and it was cold and it was raining and it was gloomy and foggy and yucky and, you know, but in my head, it was sunshine. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you are a believer, you can have that. And he gives us those promises for when we're going through all those gray, gloomy, dark times. Because how do you deal with it otherwise? Like when my mom was sick, there were a lot of barriers to get me to where she was, if you will. And I had to wait. I had to sit and I had to wait. And while I didn't understand why I couldn't go right then, well, I kind of did. I wasn't in the right mind frame to go, because had I went when I wanted to go, I wouldn't have been bringing Jesus with me, and I would have been bringing Satan instead. And that's not how I wanted to go, and that's certainly not how he wanted me to go. And I thank him every day for the delay. But it was through that process of waiting and trusting him, wholeheartedly trusting him, as scary as it was, knowing he knew best. When I did finally make it, it was one of the best times of my life and the worst time of my life. I cannot understand that. I can't explain it. But had I went when I wanted to go, I wouldn't have that story today. So when you're in the waiting and you're in the wondering, you can rest on those promises because they are real. And so far in my life, he is the only one that has not went back on his promise. He's the only one. And I think he's the only one that can't. I'll fail you every time, but he won't ever fail you. And that's important, I guess, for me. I guess. I don't know. Is that important?
No, yeah, I agree. I agree.
And I don't know why I wanted to say that and where that even, but that's what when I was praying about it this morning, I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what we were going to talk about. I had no idea. And that's what he told me. And I said,
it's just interesting because, like, I guess I've never thought about optimism. I consider myself a very positive person. And oftentimes in situations, even if it's with somebody else or myself, I'm the person that you want around, because I'm going to be able to be like, okay, so let's look at the positives for this. So yes, you're feeling this type of way, but, and so I always try and find positive. And so I guess I've never thought about, I guess I think that way because I know God's promises.
See, and I'm always that person. There's a silver lining somewhere, and I've always said my entire life, but I always thought it was optimistic.
That's what I've always thought too. It's just, I'm just that positive person. And
and I was always good with that. I'm okay with that until I wasn't okay with that. Wait a minute. No, I'm not optimistic because it looks like,
it's just very interesting. I like that though. Yeah, because I don't know, I'm like processing all that. I definitely have some people in my lives who are the opposite of me. But it's not because I don't think they believe like in the promises of God, but their mind definitely goes like, trying to think of an example. If a situation is presented, I'm the person that's going to be like finding the positives, and then I have people in my lives who are like, okay, but, and then they're the opposite sides. They're like the devil's advocate. They're the ones that are going to, and so it's just interesting because I've never actually like thought very deep into that, or why am I such a positive person? Am I trying to block out the bad, or am I just so sure of the positives?
I was always very sure of all the positives.
It's very interesting.
But I think that it's because the belief in the promises.
Well, that's how I am. I don't doubt
Right.
like what the word says or, promises in the Bible or what God says is true. I have been there, done that. But then, like, as of now in my life, I'm just like, it is what it is. Like, I don't know. I don't know how to make sense of it out loud because in my head it just makes sense.
Either way, it's fine.
Yeah.
Right? Is that what you mean? Like, it is what it is. It's fine.
Yeah.
It'll handle.
I guess when I think about the world, and then when I think about the Bible, and then I think about like worldly things and how things can go and how things can be bad, or how people are like chasing materialism and things like that. Yeah. And then when I think about the Bible, it's never changing, and it's so secure and foundational that I'm like, well, who am I to question it? Because it's never proven to be wrong before.
Right.
So I think that's where like I just like, I don't doubt because it is what it is. Like I
and
don't
that makes sense to me.
Yeah. I don't overthink it. I don't over process it. Like, it is what it is. And I feel more secure saying that, just being like, it's right there. It is what it is. Than being like, when I start thinking about the world, I get lost.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, then there's this and then this change and what's the new fad and and so I think that's why I'm just always positive and optimistic is because I'm just, it is what it is.
Yeah. That's interesting because I too, like I've never questioned the Bible. Like, I don't know why I have never questioned, because I question a lot
like
of
it
things.
doesn't change, and how is it still so relevant?
Yeah.
And so like comforting, relevant, teachable. Like how is it still all of these things, but it never changes?
Right.
Does that make sense?
Right. Yes, it does. It does, because I'll read one thing today and it'll mean something. And then I'll read it again in a year from now and it hits me a completely different way.
Yeah.
You see it differently depending on the times that you're dealing with. I just don't understand. Like, I know how my life used to be before I actually dug into the Bible and what it says and what does it really mean and learning all the things. And since I didn't pay attention when I was in school, I actually pay attention now. So I'm trying to learn some things. I find it very interesting to learn the things now. I'm like, how come I didn't know that before? How come?
Yeah, which I think we've talked about that previously. On like how come we can read the Bible now and we're just kind of like, where did that come from?
Yeah,
who put that in there?
Right. When they had that,
who
they did.
The
Yeah, but it's like, right? What? I don't know. I don't know how people can go through life and just. I don't know. I did it for so long. I guess I don't know the stillness that happens now. Still blows my mind. And I mean, he's been consistent with it. It's not something that he just sent me. It's not something I just got yesterday. Like, I should be very familiar. But every day, it's not familiar.
Yeah.
It's like, really? Okay. I don't know. I can't imagine the things that I have gone through the last several years if I didn't have God. I don't know how. I don't know what that would look like. And it terrifies me. I'm so grateful that when he reached out, I reached back. For so long I didn't. And for so long my life was a mess. And when I chose, because that's what it is, it's a choice. And I don't think about, what do you mean it's a choice? It's not a choice, just do it. No, everybody has a choice to do it or not. So I wonder why people don't choose God. That's, I guess, my big question is why? Why do you not?
Like, everybody has something in their life. I feel like everybody has something in their life that they look forward to or believe in when it comes to positivity. I feel like for the majority of the human population, everybody believes in bad versus good.
Right.
You know, like
right.
there are good choices, there are
Yeah.
good things, there are bad choices, there are bad things.
Right.
So then I'm just like, well, how do you see good and believe in good?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you not believe that there's something that's causing the good? Does that make sense? I don't know if that really makes sense.
Like
it made sense in my
circumstances?
head. Just like life in general. Like, okay, say if you're a non-believer and you travel and you see, and you just see either witness good actions or you see a part of the world that's beautiful and magnificent. Like you see things that are good and created good. And it's like, how do you not believe like that had to have came from somewhere?
Right.
That it didn't just like,
right.
It's not just there to be there.
Right.
I understand how death can be confusing. While some people believe there is something after death and people believe that there's nothing after death. Like death is not an easy topic to talk about. It's not like nobody has experience with death.
Right.
That is something in our life. Like I went to my dad's church Sunday and part of his Easter sermon was about that. Mm-hmm. Like that's not something we can't practice death.
Right.
Like I can practice any other skill in life.
Right.
I can become familiar with pretty much anything else. But then it's like when it comes to dying, nobody can do that.
Right.
So then it's like I could see how that could be confusing for people.
Yeah.
When people talk about reincarnation or that they just die and get in the ground or like
right.
Okay,
That's
like
right.
I could justify that a little bit more, but then just not believing in something or somebody who has created the good.
Yeah.
I'm just like, where do you think it came from?
Right.
Kind of thing.
Well, I'm going to, such a goofball.
Oh, God.
So, like, I'll be driving down the road and it's just woods, but I'll see like a dogwood tree. I'm like, no, nobody planted that. How'd that get there? You know? So then I go on.
I think stuff like that too.
Well, then I'm thinking, oh, hush, the bird ate the seed and then flew around and then it went to the bathroom. You know what I'm saying? So they got there and I'm like,
see, I'm the kind of person now I'll look at a tree and I'm just like, look how magnificent just that tree is. Like, look at the bark on that tree.
The way that it goes and like.
We're such weirdos. No, okay, so this is totally random. But this popped in my head, so I'm like, maybe I should say it. And I don't know what it has to do with what we were just talking about, but let me see if I can make a connection.
Yeah.
So this last week, I think it was last week, when I was like sitting at home and anyways, I was having those moments where I was like, man, my life is good. You know, like I was just windows open, looking outside, seeing the sunshine, and I'm like, life is good. Well, then I got to thinking randomly. So I don't know if anybody else with a past or a history or a story does this, but you block out certain things that have happened in your past because, like, you just don't want to think about it. Like, so randomly in my head last week, it got put that I wish I could remember parts of my story because I feel like it would be a very powerful testimony to help reach other people. But then, like, well, because I know I've talked about possibly telling my testimony on here. I've tried to tell certain parts, but well, anyways, there's some parts. I was the kind of person. I'm not gonna go into too much detail. I was the kind of person that had an underage ID. I did all the things and all the things. And the other day, I got to thinking. I was like, okay, I really want to think back on all of these things I was doing as like a 19-year-old in a college town. I did some wild and crazy stuff. And I was like, God, just put it in my head. Like, I want to remember, not because I was like, oh, those were great times.
Right.
But like, why can I not remember certain activities or events? Well, then it's like the past couple of days, I've started having these like glimpses and images of like, oh, remember that time you did this? And remember that time you did this thing? And oh, that wasn't a great choice. That was a little on the illegal side. You remember when you did that? And so then I'm sitting there like, but as these thoughts and images and things were coming in, because I figured now since I am in such a peaceful, positive time in my life, that I would feel okay. Like I don't have any other trauma or experiences happening where I'm like, okay, I'm feeling good. Bring it on, bring it on. But then I was thinking about the stuff that I did, and I like felt no kind of way about it. I was just like, oh, this is what. Oh, I remember that. I remember whenever I like went to that party and did that thing, and it wasn't even like a reminiscing. It was just kind of like I remember that.
Right. I can't believe I forgot.
I can't believe I did that. And
that's been happening to me too.
Yeah, but it's just like all this stuff has been coming in my head.
Yeah.
And then I'm just kind of like at the stage now, I was like, so what am I going to do with that?
Right.
Do I do anything with that?
Right.
Am I just getting it to kind of put some things back in my head to remind me of how I got to where I am today?
Right.
But it's just interesting because when we're thinking about the positivity stuff, and it's like, I have not always been there.
No.
And then how you talk about past years and things that have happened, and it's just like, I don't know. And I think about myself and being a positive person, and even in certain situations where I should not have been in, I should not have participated in.
Sure.
I still want to think back, and for some reason, I want to say I was still a positive person.
I've always been.
Almost in the sense of like, I think I've said this before, it was almost like I knew I was trying to find myself on a worldly level because I lived in the world, and I was seeing all these other people and trying to, I guess trying to just figure out who I was, which I feel like is a very human thing.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, I got wrapped up in the wrong side of it, trying to discover myself. But then the whole time it was like something inside of me telling me, you're going to discover God's purpose for you. You're going to find out God's purpose. This is not God's purpose for you. Does that make sense?
Oh, perfect.
And so then it's
more
like,
than you know.
And it's like I've always just been positive. Like, this is not it. This is not the end for you.
Right.
And at the time, I was like, I don't know what that means.
Right.
Like, where am I going to end up? I was living in Jackson, Tennessee.
Because it sure looks like the end to me.
Yeah.
Right? The road I'm on is like, no.
I was from like small town Tennessee. I was like, I just thought that's what it was. Like, I was going to find somebody in small town Tennessee. I was going to get married. I was going to have kids. And that was that. You know, I couldn't see the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And so, but since there was always something with the positivity or the God-given optimism.
Right.
But it was like, just because of that, in bad situations, I was able to continue to look positive.
Yes.
And then I don't know, I got in this spiral of thinking. I was like, well, that's how I ended up where I don't know if that makes sense.
Oh, it makes perfect sense.
Like
because you were actually reflecting, and correct me if I'm wrong, all the areas that you saw God touch your life.
Yes.
Was that what you were doing?
Yeah.
Because I do it. Yeah.
And what's crazy.
And I see how he brought me right here.
And I even think back on bad situations I was in. And then part of me now is I don't even think they were that bad. I'm like, they were not great situations to be in. But when I think back on who I was at that moment and the people I was around at that time. And then what's weird is I've been having like comments coming back in my head of what people have said to me. Yeah. And I'm like, maybe I've always been who I was. Unfortunately, I made some bad choices. But again, it's like certain life events have just stacked on top of each other and stacked on top of each other, which have led me to where I am. I don't know. It's just how God's plan and purpose. And I know earlier you were talking about like the genealogy of Christ. But even like thinking about people and like just things that stack on top of each other.
And think about this though. Everything had to be in the right place at the right time. Every individual that you've come in contact had to be in that place at that time. Woo!
Yeah, and when I think about
God can do it.
Yeah, Bible stories, and when you think about the ultimate big picture of the Bible, and God's plan for the world, and we're even blessed that we know the end of it. Yeah, like we know what's going to happen at the end. So it's like God has this ultimate plan, and even just reading it in the Bible, and like what you were talking about with genealogies, and when you go and you look at individuals who had to come together or go through a certain story.
To get to
meet somebody, to have a certain baby, to all end up and lead to Jesus. And then I'm like, that's kind of how I feel about my life. I had to make bad decisions. I had to burn bridges with people. I had to
listen. You don't know that the stove is hot until you touch it.
It's just crazy,
right?
Yeah.
And somebody says, "Don't touch it; it's hot." You're gonna be like,
"Is it?
Are you sure?"
Yeah.
Oh no! And then what? You want me to kiss it? No, I don't told you. Stop it. But God will kiss it.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. Maybe today I would. I don't know. I'm thinking probably not. I told you.
It's just fascinating.
Yeah,
all of
you're
it
right.
is. And I think that's why I'm so secure in the Bible, is because, like, when I think about my own life,
that helps.
I see
That helps.
the Bible
Yes.
reflected in my life.
Yes.
That is not about me.
Yes.
I am essentially, I don't know if this is going to come out the way I want it to come out. I'm a pawn
Yes.
in God's story.
You are God's servant.
Yeah, and then it's like he has allowed me to go through situations or to be tempted in ways or to bring me to where I am now.
To bring you to the
It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I honestly,
this is where your purpose
and
will
I'm
be
very
found.
thankful for everything that I've gone through.
Yes. Yes. You know, I want to say this, and this is going to be a little bit personal. I'm going to try and make it not.
Okay.
But it is, so I don't know. No, I got it. So I have some pictures of me and my mom that I would not have today had it not been for a particular individual. Okay. Now, for years and years and years, which I feel like I have dealt with this particular individual, and I have made peace with why he behaved the way he did. And he has to answer for that, not me. And thank God he wasn't in my life for very long. I did learn it was longer than I initially thought, which doesn't make me feel very good.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, he left my life, my mom's life, and we moved on. And, you know, there were a lot of feelings that I had for this person. And grateful was never one of them. I promise. And recently, and I mean like within a month, I don't know, it's been pretty recent. God changed that story I was telling myself about that person. And so while I never thought I would say, I'm grateful that this person was in my life, I wouldn't have the pictures that I have, but for him. And it was those very pictures that I saw after my mom had passed away and we were going through her things. I forgot she loved me that much. I forgot she used to look at me like that. Had he not taken those pictures, I wouldn't have them.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have remembered that's how close we were. So even in the messy middle, God is there. You may not know where today or why, but it's quite possible later you'll figure it out and be like, you know, you know. And I've said before, I'm not one that's going to be taking the pictures. I'm the one that's going to be looking at it live and kicking myself later because I don't have any pictures.
Yeah.
So I just found that funny how God brought that back to me. You wouldn't have these pictures but for that person. And I wouldn't, because there are no other pictures that portray that. Those are the only ones. So anyway, there's that.
And that optimistic, well, the positivity, looking for the bright side.
Well, you've got to, I mean, because that was a very dark part. Yeah. And God says that all of it, you know, it will be used for your good. Well, I now need to know where that's at, please.
Yeah.
And he reminded me.
And I know we've been talking a lot about mindset, and just like you said, like changing how you thought about a story.
Shaking on the inside a moment.
Yeah, but it's just like, that's what's crazy is, you know, because I've been just doing a lot of reflecting. And then like how we've talked about however many years ago, like I went to counseling and I dealt with depression and anxiety, and And then, like, lately I've had things happen in my life that old me would have gotten into a spiral about. I would have overthought it, overprocessed it, probably been dealing with some anxious feelings, not really knowing how to work through stuff.
Right.
And lately I feel like, and I think it may have been last episode that we were talking about joy or peace. May have been joy. Because then I said something like, well, happy. And I was like, wait, that's not the same thing.
Right.
So we were not like being joyful and stuff. And it's like, I'm at a place in my life now because, and honestly, I think it's because we've been talking so much about mindset. And when you were talking about it and really bouncing off each other, I feel like it's really helping my mind's process stuff.
Yeah.
So then it's just like, where I was like, oh, anyways, the situations like lately, or like thinking about my past, just sitting around thinking about, and it's like my mind is at such a different place. And I'm like, this is what God has intended for us, is that we can have situations in our life, think about situations that are going on, tackle anything, and then still feel so at peace and so joyful while we're trying to work through things. Because I have gone, like, now, like, even I've had comments in my home made to me about how I'm just kind of doing my own thing. Doing my own thing. But like cooking, cleaning, I'm just kind of, I just feel so peaceful doing it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like, I'm just walking around my house. I don't feel rushed anymore. I'm not going to feel anxious about anything.
When you get out of the way, it will happen.
Yeah.
Better than you planned it, I promise. But yeah, that goes right along with that.
Yeah.
When you just
let it go.
Yeah. Take a minute.
Continue to be, or if you're not, work on finding the positives this week. If you are a positive person, continue with that because it's worth it.
Yeah. It's hard, but it is worth it.
Yes. All right. Thank y'all so much for watching this week's episode, and we will see y'all next time. Have a great day.
Bye.